According to BPL Chairman Donovan Moxey, BPL is not in crisis. It's a different view, though, from many others who believe that the country is facing a national crisis brought on by BPL's inability to keep the power on. Today, after police were adamant that they never requested BPL not to issue a load shedding schedule, we began finally getting a schedule of which areas will be off. And while a schedule is good for when the power will be off, consumers are hoping that eliminate power outages would be the next fix. That brings us to the issue of these engines and generators. 7 engines, 7 have been purchased from Wärtsilä. We're told the power company put up some $95 million of the people's money to get these generators, to get these engines. However, we understand that the previous board and the finance committee only negotiated $100 million for capital maintenance, automated metering, and so on. Think about it now, 95 million versus 100 million that was initially supposed to be agreed for the whole project. So then if these engines cost 95, that leaves you with perhaps 5 million more to do everything else? Impossible. So how did the company pay for this project? It is believed that it secured funding from the Fortress Group. Remember that name. Trust me, you want to remember that name, the Fortress Group. But wait, when we look into who the Fortress Group is, we learned that some of the principals are a familiar name, the Holowesko's. Wait again. Isn't the deputy chairman of BPL's board Stephen Holowesko? And if indeed his family is involved in the Fortress Group, and BPL did get funding from them, wouldn't that be a conflict of interest if you're the deputy chairman? And since the former board didn't approve Fortress, although they were constantly being pushed to meet with this group, how did they get in and identified as a financier? Could it be that after the old board was dismissed, the new board quickly went into negotiations with Fortress, knowing very well about the conflict of interest? In fact, is that how BPL secured these engines? And if that is the case, does that now put BPL in debt with the Holowesko's or Fortress? If BPL were to privatize, let's just say hypothetically, BTL were to privatize fully, who would be perhaps first up to purchase? Could this be a part of a bigger plan? Lincoln, your thoughts on this whole thing with this BPL and this board and what appears to be yet another case of conflict of interest? If indeed, as our research showed, that Holowesko's are involved with this company, financing company, Fortress, and if that is the case, and the deputy chairman is a Holowesko, the one Stephen, the son of Lynn Holowesko, is that not a conflict of interest? Why are we seeing again with this administration another incident yet of conflicts of interest and people who are self-serving for the good of an elite group of people?
If what you are saying is indeed true, we need to go back to the public. We need to go back to an election because this government promised us that they would be different. They would be anti-corruption. And if that is indeed true, this is devastating. I don't know how this government could survive that. I've seen in other countries, people have not just stepped down, but have gone to jail for stuff like this. You saw in New Orleans, Mayor Ray Nagin, just gave some contracts to his friends, and he went to jail. Kwame Kilpatrick up in Detroit, the same thing. He went to jail. I think he got like 10 years. And so we promised different, man, and we expected different. So we want to see different. And so we can't sit back and allow these things happen this time. See, social media causes everything to be different. And politicians, if they think they could just keep stuff under the covers, that's not going to happen this time.
It now makes clear to me why we could not get governments to put in place a real Freedom of Information Act. Because could you imagine with all of this information at the fingertips of the media or just people, what you will uncover about what's been happening in this country for so many years? And I understand now why. Listen, I understand why you don't want a freedom of information. I understand. Some of you would literally have some answers, some serious questions. But what we don't understand is we still have our own freedom of information. It's called Google. You can find anything there. You can research and find information out. It's on the World Wide Web. You no longer can hide. And you can research things and find things out. It makes me wonder, though, because we obviously saw how one board was ushered out, another one ushered in BPL, but certain members remain on that board. And you knew that something was going on. And there's so many things coming out of BPL that makes you wonder, what is happening? Why was the old board so adamant about holding the brakes on certain things when there was this force to push them to make certain decisions? Then after that board was unceremoniously released and a new board came into play, we started seeing the machine move so quickly and certain things started happening. And then we saw another resignation, the chief operating officer, Christina. We saw her pick up, abruptly resign and leave and said nothing to anybody. What was she running away from? What was she seeing or what did she notice that made her feel as if this is not going in the right direction, this is going to end up in a certain place? Could our power outages that we're experiencing be a result of a lot more than we're aware of, and not just the fact that you have an increased load and you're trying to get new generators to take over the temporary? I believe there's more. This is why I see why people call it a national crisis. There is a lot more going on than I think people are willing to talk about, the players are aware of, but they're willing to discuss. And I believe Bahamians have to demand and ask for more to be said and done, because something is afoot. And I believe as we're seeing bits and pieces of it come out, somebody's gonna have to answer some questions. We're gonna take a break. We're back after this.